Okay, joining us now for more on this is Glenn Ignacio, military expert and retired Air Force Special Operations Commander. First of all, Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I want to get your thoughts on what we heard from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken there when it comes to this latest issue over the weekend, when it came to these 3 U.S. soldiers who were killed and the response that the U.S. is vowing to take.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it's rather significant with actually having individuals killed. It's unfortunate, in our thoughts with the families, but there's been over 150 strikes against U.S. Personnel and troops within that entire area. So this is definitely one of the things that's going to be a concern as far as trying to strike back. It's been very defensive in nature. So when the attacks have happened, then there may be a strike. But the idea of being very preemptive, of being able to take that particular strike away before they do it, I think that this is going to be a cohesive package. We have to think that this was a strike against Jordan, sovereign state as itself. But I don't think that this is something that should go directly into Iran and strike Iran. That opens up a whole different chaotic can of worms.
Right, and Blinken was saying that he wouldn't get into the specifics, but he said this could be a multi-leveled response. It could come in stages. It could happen over a period of time. What could we be seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, because it was actually a strike in Jordan and against another sovereign state in a country. So the idea that it could be joint, it could just be U.S. forces at all. So what's going to happen now is, intelligence is constantly gathered and disseminated and really analyzed as far as what's going on in the region and these particular terrorist threats. That's one of the things we try to do to prevent any kind of harm from troops. But now that there's going to be a response to something like this, they're going to take a look and take inventory of what we have for forces, what are the actual threats and where are they located, and what would be the best way, say with a weapon, to take those targets out, or other significant events. So that's really the way it is. So it's a big mission package to do it as safely as possible to protect all those involved. But there's a lot of analysis going on right now, who, what, and where those particular strikes, if they go, are going to be allocated in that particular country.
Glenn, there are more countries like Japan and Austria that are pulling funding from UNRWA over allegations that 12 staff members took part in the October 7th attacks on Israel. Have you heard of this happening before? And what do you think is going to happen next? I mean, the UN is saying without this funding, they can't continue their operations past February on the ground in Gaza. So talk to us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, it's an interesting beast because the United Nations and the entire relief effort is a combination of a variety of different individuals from a variety of different countries, and some of them may have that assimilation with what's going on with either Hamas and Palestinians within Gaza, or mainly Hamas. So the collaboration, and I believe that there's incredible proof and evidence of that. We won't talk about that. That's going to be coming out, I'm sure. But the possibility of that's being true, absolutely agree to that. The biggest thing is to be able to weed these particular efforts out. To say that there's never going to be any, hey, you have to be very prominent to make sure you don't get those folks in. But it shouldn't impact the mission as a whole to punish the Palestinians. So the aid has to continue. But yes, I have to believe that they need to root out who these individuals were and take action on that. But that is a big thing, is that the humanitarian aid and the suffering of humans, and we're not talking about Hamas, we're talking about the Palestinians, has to continue to support them and supply them so that they're safe and are able to endure.
Just finally here, Glenn, the Qatari Prime Minister is saying that good progress is being made on these potential ceasefire talks between the U.S., Egypt, and Israel. And this could potentially be something that lasts even longer than a couple months. This could possibly be permanent. This seems to be the signal here that that's potentially something that we could be looking at. What would it take for something like that to be successful?
Yeah, let's take a look at the tenets of that. Okay, so Israel says, I want the hostages completely released, and I want Hamas, destroyed, or at least the infrastructure destroyed, and they gave the ability for Hamas to leave the Gaza area. Okay, that's Israel's side. The additional thing is that they said 2 months of a ceasefire. Hamas, on the other side, says we don't want to leave Gaza. We want a permanent ceasefire. And that's really where they're in a binding issue right now. If the hostages are released, Hamas doesn't really have much of a bargaining chip. That is in question. So where are they going to come to agreement on 2 months versus a permanent ceasefire? And Hamas, the biggest thing is Israel cannot be threatened or attacked in any way, shape, or form in the future. So what does that entail? You can't root out every Hamas individual and militant in Gaza. That's not possible. But the infrastructure can be destroyed with that capability. So what are these tenants going to be? How do they come to common ground? Hopefully that's something soon, and hopefully those hostages come out. But we'll see that in the coming days with these negotiations.
All right, Glenn Ignacio, military expert and retired Air Force Special Operations Commander, joining us on this today. As always, a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.